everybody. Welcome you at Unicase Talks channel. My name is Nuray Alisher. Kazakhstan has taken a course towards the development of renewable and alternative energy resources. By the assignment of President of Kazakhstan, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, the share of renewable energy in electricity generation should reach 15% by 2030. Now it is 3%. According to it, renewable energy sector is experiencing rapid development. Investors and developers pay attention not only to standard auction-based PPA, but also to bilateral PPA. Today our topic is devoted to private PPA in Kazakhstan. Please welcome Senior Associate at Unicase Law Firm Nurlan Kobenov. Welcome, Nurlan.
Thank you, Nuray. I'm very glad to speak to you today.
Nurlan, does Kazakh legislation provide the possibility to sell electric power via bilateral PPA?
Generally, according to renewable energy law, the law provides the possibility to renewable energy producers to sell their electricity via two options. The first one is to financial settlement center based on auction price PPA. The second one is to sell electric power via bilateral private PPA at a contractual price. So we can make a conclusion that Kazakh legislation directly provides a possibility to sell electric power produced by renewable energy producers based on bilateral private PPAs. It's important to know that in case developers select to sell electric power based on private bilateral PPAs, they cannot switch to auction-based PPA then.
Nurlan, what are the main conditions to be able to enter private PPA?
Kazakh legislation does not provide for a standard bilateral PPA, so the parties can use a free-form bilateral PPA. However, despite the legislation does not provide for a standard form, the parties should comply with the basic requirement of the law. For instance, the wholesale market rule provides that renewable energy producers, in order to be able to participate in the wholesale market, shall comply with certain requirements. The first one is to produce at least 1 megawatt of electric power a year. The second one is to have an automated metering system. And the third one is to have connection to the national grid or the regional grid.
In case of private PPA, how balancing services issue is resolved?
Generally, wholesale market participants, including energy producing organizations, are required to participate in balancing market of Kazakhstan and sign relevant agreements with KEGOC. As for the renewable energy producers, the renewable energy law provides that financial settlement center is responsible for covering imbalances produced by renewable energy organization in case of auction-based PPA. Given that the financial settlement center will not be involved in the private PPA, the renewable energy producers in this case will have to be responsible for the imbalances produced by themselves. So, in our opinion, renewable energy producers that select bilateral PPA option will have to cover their own disbalances produced to the national network.
Do preferences provided for by renewable energy law apply to private PPA?
Yes, except for the balancing services, the other main preferences provided for renewable energy law are available to renewable energy producers acting based on bilateral PPA. The first one is that transmission organizations are required to provide free access to the renewable energy objects. The second one is that renewable energy objects are provided with transmission services free of charge. The other one is that renewable energy objects shall be provided with the nearest point of connection on non-discriminatory basis. The other preferences is that in case of limitation of capacity, the renewable energy electricity shall be provided with the access to national grid in a priority. And the last one is that dispatching schedules provided for each day shall be provided to the renewable energy objects in a priority as well.
What other types of agreements shall be concluded by renewable energy producer to implement private PPA?
In case of private PPA, the other main contracts that should be signed by the renewable energy producers are the following. The first one is the transmission agreement with the KEGOC or regional electric power station. Despite renewable energy producers are exempt from paying for transmission services, they anyway have to conclude such agreements with the transmission organization. The other type of agreement is a connection of the renewable energy facility agreement. This agreement is signed with regional transmission organization for the connection of the newly constructed renewable energy objects. The other one is, as it was mentioned before, balancing agreement with KEGOC. Also, the renewable energy producers required to sign dispatching agreement with KEGOC. And as for the capacity services, Kazakh legislation does not oblige renewable energy organization to provide capacity services, so the capacity agreements shall not be signed in case of bilateral PPA.
What, in your view, the main advantages and disadvantages of applying private PPA?
In my opinion, the main advantages of the private PPA option is that the parties can use free-form PPA and agree on every provision of the agreement by themselves. For instance, they can agree on curtailment provisions, indexation issues, and other provisions that are not properly regulated by the standard auction PPA. The other advantages is that there is no limit for the term of the PPA. Also, the parties agree on any price of the electricity at their agreement, so they are not required to participate in the auction. And the last one that we can highlight is that the most preferences provided for by the renewable energy law is applicable to the private PPA option. Talking about disadvantages of the private PPA option, we shall notice that in case of private PPA, balancing costs shall be covered by the renewable object itself. The other disadvantages is that in case of private PPA option, there is a risk of a bankruptcy of the buyer of the electric energy, because the state does not support the buyers of electric energy in contrast to financial settlement center. The other disadvantages is that the parties of the private PPA will have to deal with intermittent nature of the production of renewable energy electricity. And the last one that in our view is one of the main disadvantages of the private PPA is that the parties, and especially renewable object, will have to deal with the surpluses of the production of the renewable energy facility, because in case of standard auction-based PPA, all the surpluses will be acquired by the financial settlement center. Given that financial settlement center is not involved in the private PPA, the renewable energy producer will have to deal with the surpluses itself.
Thank you, Nurlan. It was very informative and interesting topic. Don't forget to subscribe our channel. See you next time. Thank you.